we go then, folks, my final live game hunting video of 2023. And we are visiting what might be not only my favourite store of 2023, but my favourite store of all time.
Game Pickups! Building the Games Room! Road Trips! Live Game Hunting!
Hello again, folks, and welcome back to the last live game hunting episode of 2023. And trust me, I have saved the best till last. That's because this time we are heading down to Essex to visit the Nerd Base, which I honestly think could be the best store I've visited in the whole of 2023. If you have not been there before, you are in for an absolute treat, as this place not only has the best modern and retro toys, it also has an awesome video game selection, and trust me, you do not want to miss this one. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week, and I really want you folks along for the ride. Now, let's get on the road to Essex, to the Nerd Base. Here we go then, folks. Nerd Base here in Battlebridge in Essex, and honestly, brace yourself. I had a fair idea that this place was going to be pretty good, but I was absolutely blown away by the Nerd Base. The pictures and the reviews online do not do this place justice. This is without a doubt one of, if not the best store I have ever been to in my entire life. There is more stuff here than I have seen possibly over the whole of this year hunting. There is so much stuff under this one shelf, and trust me, you are going to need a good night's sleep before heading here, as there is a lot to take in. And in today's episode, I'm going to try and take you through everything I saw at the Nerd Base, and of course go to those pickups at the end. So start off here, one of the first things I found were these absolutely incredible Gremlins 2 figures. These were super detailed, really nice. Check these out, these retro-inspired Aliens figures. So for the outside of the boxes, they look like the figures did back in the day in the mid-90s. You open them up and these are definitely 2023 action figures. These are super detailed, really cool figures, and I just love the retro-inspired art on these. I love these toys back in the day, still love them today, and these new kind of modern retro are super cool. Here we have some more new Aliens figures here, and once again these are definitely retro inspired. I love these figures so much. I still pick these up where I can, the old OG figures, but these like kind of new inspired figures are really cool, especially this Alien vs Predator pack. It's not very often you see Alien vs Predator inspired toys, so these ones were definitely really cool to see. I just love the Alien toy range, so cool. But of course it's not just modern toys here at the Nerd Base, there's also loads of retro, including this really cool Gladiators Duel from Hornby of all companies, and of course my favourite toy that I still do not own from my childhood, the iconic 1993 T-Rex from Jurassic Park. I want to find one of these which is fully working. I think the sound wasn't working on this one, so I did pass. But there was a really good selection of vintage Jurassic Park toys in here, including some I've never seen before. It is such a cool toy line, and honestly, probably my favourite toy line from my childhood, because it's just the one that for me holds the most memories. And when it comes to retro toy collecting, that's mainly what it's about, the memories. And this is another toy line which I absolutely loved as a kid, was Crash Dummies, just because it was a toy that was literally designed to break and to smash and obviously to crash. It was such a cool idea, and you know, at the end of the day it was actually teaching us the importance of wearing a seatbelt, which wasn't exactly a lesson I was expecting to learn from toys. Other than Jurassic Park back in the day, and perhaps my first love before Jurassic Park, was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toy line, and there was some really obscure Turtles toys and merch here at the Nerd Base, and some really cool stuff which I'd never ever seen before. We'd seen some modern Aliens toys, and here we have the OG Kenner Aliens toy from the mid-90s, and perhaps the most iconic of these figures is of course Ripley in the Power Loader, a figure which I'm sorely missing from my collection, and if I didn't buy a few very large items later on the day here in the Nerd Base, I would have grabbed this. One thing I love about toy hunting is that sometimes it can stir some real memories. Like, I have a real memory of these kind of robot dinosaur toys that kind of, I think they move and walk around, but I just can't for the life of me remember what they were. And I'm sure I had some of these back in the day, Rock Lords. They were like Transformers, but more kind of just rocks. Let me know in the comments down below if you remember Rock Lords. And here is another absolutely iconic toy line, the Ghostbusters toys. And I think the funny thing about this toy line is that the kind of ghosts as such were way more iconic than most of the Ghostbusters. I just love these. I think for me, these absolutely epitomise what the 90s were. Just that loud, brash style. This right here is my favourite modern toy line to collect for, the TMNT NECA figures. For my money, these are the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles figures that money can buy. I love these kind of retro-inspired ones as well, but for me, my first love when it comes to modern turtle toy collecting is the NECA figures. They are just head and shoulders above any other figure on the market, not just in the TMNT division, but just for any figure that NECA makes. They just blow all of the other competitors out of the market. And here is a box set which I've been looking for a very long time. Some of these older TMNT animated series NECA figures are getting very expensive and very hard to find. So when I saw this one, which has unarguably two of the most iconic figures from the OG TMNT series, I had to pick this one up. You do not see this one very often, and spoiler alert, I actually found another set hiding on a shelf here, so stick around to the pickup to see what that one was. This right here gives you an idea of how big the nerd base is. This is just one of the rooms on the first floor of the nerd base. This place is absolutely vast, and every single room is absolutely stocked with awesome stuff. So let's get into some wrestling figures and check out these WWF figures from the Attitude Era. Absolutely fantastic box set. 4 of the most iconic wrestlers from that period, and I just love these kind of old Jakks Pacific wrestling figures. These are really, really good, and the artwork on these is absolutely fire. For me, when it comes to retro toys, it is mainly about the artwork. For me, I like to keep most of my retro figures boxed, and the artwork on these is absolute fire. Yes, the Jakks Pacific figures don't have the greatest likeness of the wrestlers they're meant to be, but the artwork, it just encapsulates what the Attitude Era was. And of course it was, without doubt, the greatest era in professional wrestling. Y'all know by now I love me some Jurassic Park toys, and these are figures which have intrigued me for a very long while. The Jurassic Park Hammond collection. Now these are super detailed figures which are of course leaned towards collectors like myself. Now I never realised the scale of these, so they are a lot smaller than kind of your traditional Jurassic Park figures, which means you can get figures such as this one here, the Brachiosaurus, which is absolutely huge, but it does mean that some of these are surprisingly small. Like, look at the human figures here. These are curiously small figures, but they are super detailed. Look, you can see they're basically thumb size, but these are really detailed, absolutely premium action figures, and definitely a series I'm tempted to collect. The nerd base also had some of the rarer, more modern Jurassic Park figures, such as this Jurassic World Extreme Damage set, which I haven't seen before. I think this might have been an American exclusive. I could be wrong, but it's definitely one I haven't seen before. Same as this TMNT figure here. Really cool, but not kind of size I like. Here we have my wife's pickup of the day, and these are really interesting. These are Munster's kind of dolls, for lack of a better term. These were super cool, vintage kind of action figures, and more interestingly, when we looked these up, these were really underpriced, and also more interestingly, these were limited edition numbered figures. And the crazy thing about these 3 figures is the numbers on the box, so stick around for the pickups to find out more about these. Back to the wrestling figures, and at the moment I currently only collect AEW figures which are boxed and complete, but I keep getting tempted to pick up WWE figures, but there's just so many ranges of WWE figures now, it's hard to know where to start. But for my money, I would say the Elite figures are, for lack of a better term, the elite action figures. They have the best likeness, they have such a good selection of wrestlers, and honestly they look really cool. They're really poseable and really cool action figures, but again, at the end of the day, in the games room, space is at a premium, and it is something I'll probably maybe do in the future, but at the moment I have to bide my time and keep my space. Now, actually, truth be told, it was around Black Friday I visited the Nerd Base, and they actually had this massive section here which had loads of items on offer. Now, of course, I love finding me a good deal, so I had to jump in and see what was hiding here. And the first thing that jumped out to me was these Star Wars, I think they're comics figures. I really like these clamshell Star Wars figures, and this is a figure I don't think I've ever seen before, and honestly, I don't really know much about this character or this comic, so I did pass on this one. It just has a real passing resemblance to me to Bucky O'Hare. Here we have a bit of a rant, and no, it's not about the new Dungeons & Dragons film, as I actually really enjoyed that, and of course I love the OG D&D cartoon. But one thing I really hate is plastic-free toy boxes. I understand they're trying to be environmentally friendly, but for 90% of these toys, they'll never be opened, and not having the plastic kind of window there so you can see the toy, for me, kind of ruins it from a complete in-box collector. I like being able to see my toys, and when they're just fully cardboard boxes, it is impossible to see these, but I think a lot of companies are going back to plastic, be it good or bad, just so people can see their figures, such as these awesome Bill and Ted figures. I'm not fully sold on the stylized kind of way these look, but they were really, really cool, and honestly, at a reduced price, a pretty decent price for figures you don't see very often. But when it comes to both modern and retro toy collecting, no franchise has a bigger share of the market than Star Wars. And of course, the Nerd Base had an absolutely ginormous selection of both modern and retro Star Wars toys. For me personally, I only collect the retro line of action figures because I love the way they are modern and affordable, to be honest, but they also have that retro look. They look like the original 70s and 80s Star Wars figures, just without the massive price tag that they command these days. But there was some really, really, really cool Star Wars stuff here, including this life-size statue of Jar Jar. So that was the ground floor of the Nerd Base. Let's head up to the first floor for even more awesomeness. As I said, this place is absolutely vast, but I would be amiss if I didn't mention this as the way I was going up the stairs, this life-size E.T. and this amazing Raphael cutout. But trust me, folks, you haven't seen anything yet. Let's head upstairs. Here we are then on the first floor of the Nerd Base, and just impacted with a wall of action figures. We have Marvel action figures, G.I. Joe figures, Masters of the Universe, even some pop vinyls. This place is absolutely vast, and not a single inch is wasted. It is packed with some of the best retro and modern toys and collectibles I've ever seen, and some absolute bargains. Now, I was tempted to pick up another one of these TMNT NECA box sets, but this is one I see quite often, and when I come to a place like the Nerd Base, I'm looking for the rare, the stuff I do not see very often, and these two box sets are quite readily available, so I did pass on these two. But of course, it is not just action figures, retro and modern toys, and yes, video games are coming. There is also comic books at the Nerd Base, and when I say comics, there is a lot of comics. This entire floor was boxes upon boxes upon boxes of comics, all kept under the watchful eye of Deadpool there in the background, and of course, even more Marvel figures. I'm sure, these Marvel figures have just suddenly appeared in the past few years. I remember getting the X-Men X-Force figures, I think it was, back in the day, but at the moment there just seems to be thousands of Marvel action figures, which honestly, with the size of that franchise, just isn't really surprising. But I was blown away by the absolute vast range of comics they had here at the Nerd Base, and these were super duper cool, but did have a very, very high price tag. These Batman figures, I think to get the pair of both Batman and Robin, because of course you'd have to pick up both, would have been about £350. But that's the thing with some of these collectibles, they hold a premium price because they are premium collectible items. These are not just toys, these are collectibles, and this place just blows my mind. This is a really cool toy line you don't see very often, the Mortal Kombat 11 figure toy line. There's some really good crossover figures here, such as Spawn and the Joker, and I never knew they made this many figures for Mortal Kombat 11. They pretty much must have made a figure for every single fighter that game has on the roster. A really, really cool set, and yeah, never knew there was this many. These are really, really nice, and these Spawn action figures as well were super cool. Definitely a nice little corner here of the Nerd Base. Here we go then to the last unexplored corner here of the nerd base, and this is where they have their video game selection. Now, this may be quite a small selection, but there's definitely some real gems hiding in here, such as this TMNT Street Fighter figure box set. The crossover we never knew we needed. I love the fact this kind of looks a bit like an arcade cab. It's super cool, and honestly, again, it's another TMNT figure line, which probably in the future I'm going to be tempted to collect for. But for now, let's jump into video games. Jumping into the first class cabinet of dreams here, and it definitely seems like the nerd base has gone for quality over quantity. We are talking rare OG Xbox games, PS1 games, rare PlayStation 3 games, but it has been a while since I've seen this good a selection of mega CD games. This is a difficult console to collect for, and there were some heavy hitter titles here, including, surprisingly, one of the games I'm really looking for, the Star Wars chess game for the Mega CD. It's a really rare game, it commands a fairly high price, and unfortunately, because of my spending, I did have to pass. But this is what I love about the nerd base. The range of stock they have at any one time is absolutely incredible. So we've been through all the modern and retro toys, some of the rare video games. We also have a really large selection of cartridge games here, including the Master System and Mega Drive. But it's not just retro gaming as well. We have some awesome bits here. So heading down here, we have some really good big box stuff. I think this was either Amiga or Amstrad. Couldn't be quite sure. I do get easily confused by the two. Here we have an absolute wall of PlayStation 2 games. If you are a PlayStation 2 collector, there's got to be something here you need for your collection. And then moving on, we have PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, just a little bit of everything. This is literally like being in my games room. It's just a wall of discs on the wall here. Some really cool stuff here, like this limited edition Grand Theft Auto 5. Still can't believe that game came out 10 years ago. Moving on here, we have more OG Xbox games, Xbox 360, just a wall of stuff. And everywhere you look is just something else. Like you can see, it's just a Majora's Mask statue hiding on the top there. I said it earlier, not a single inch of the nerd base is wasted. Here we have a corner where, yeah, you could have an empty space, or you could just fill it with tape-based games. I do not see these very often, especially in this quantity. Like, look how many tape-based games are here. And not only that, there's even more big box games here. You could spend easily a day here at the nerd base and still miss stuff. I think we were here about 4 or 5 hours. And this is just me cutting down to show you the very best bits. It is pretty much impossible to see everything the nerd base has to show in one day, and I will definitely be returning here in the future because it's just overwhelming in a good way. It's absolutely incredible, but everywhere you turn there is something new to look at. Like, look, just a pile of strategy guides here, including this one which I've been after for a long while, Far Cry 5. But again, I was very much over budget at this time, but trust me, I could have spent a small fortune here at the nerd base, and honestly, I did spend a small fortune here at the nerd base, but it could have been a lot more. This is honestly one of, if not the best store I've ever been to. But we ain't done yet, folks. This is what I love about the nerd base. Every time you're just about finished, you think you've seen it all, you see something else cool. Like, look at this Gears of War figure box set. An absolutely iconic box set, and another incredible Zelda Majora's Mask thing there, alongside another Witcher figure. And this glass cabinet of dreams had some cool stuff, like big box OG Half-Life. Anyone? I've been looking for one of these for a long while. A box and complete Game Genie and some Halo action figures. And it just carries on like, oh, there's a couple of big box PC games here and some real heavy hitters. A lot of people kind of pass up on the big box PC games, but some of these are worth a lot of money. These are getting highly collectible. And there was definitely some very, very desirable games here at the nerd base. Now here's something that was a real pleasant surprise. A Japanese N64 complete with Zelda, complete in the box for just 90 quid. I did not realise how affordable Japanese N64 collecting is, and it's definitely something which going forward I'm going to look into in 2024, as this could be a great way to play some of the more expensive N64 games, especially the ones that don't have a great deal of text, in a very, very affordable way. And if nothing else, the artwork is fire. But that Japanese N64 nearly distracted gifted me from this, the Saints Row 2 Collector's Edition for the Xbox 360. This is a Collector's Edition which I've been after for a very, very long while, and sadly today I did have to pass, but it's definitely my favourite Saints Row game. So that was the Nerd Base in Battle Bridge in Essex, and here we are heading home over the Battle Bridge. Yes, Battle Bridge does of course have a bridge. The Nerd Base absolutely blew me away. I managed to pick up some absolutely incredible pickups for the collection. So let's take it back to the games room for those pickups. Here we are then back in the games room for the final time in 2023 for the pickups from Nerd Base. And it's a strong statement, but I genuinely think that is the best store I've been to over the course of 2023. And with the calibre of stores I've visited, it does take some beating to get that title. But I'm giving that title to Nerd Base. It is the best store I've been to in 2023, and I have some amazing pickups. I could have picked up the entire store. I would happily go and live in the Nerd Base. It is my idea of heaven, but let's get into these pickups. So the first pickup is actually from my wife, and she picked up this set of 3 Monsters dolls, and these are really quite cool. They're exclusive premiere figures, and they're all obviously brand new in the box. They're a little bit rough, but I think these were from the 90s or something like that. Like, looking for a date on here is quite difficult, but the interesting thing about these are numbered, and if you can see there, this is number 1 of 12,000, which I'm not sure if it's because this is the very first figure made, or if everyone just says 1 as in 1 of 12,000, or if that's its individual number, because with every single one of these figures, they are number 1. And these are really cool. Like, I'm quite a fan of like vintage horror. My wife's definitely more of a fan of the monsters than myself, but these are really cool and something we had never seen before. And for the price at just £20 each, these were a really good pickup. This is one of the things that really blew me away about Nerd Base. They had some absolutely fantastic prices. Whenever I go to a store such as Nerd Base, I'm always looking for the stuff I cannot find anywhere else. And without a shadow of a doubt, one of my favourite figure lines to collect for is the TMNT NECA Original Cartoon Double Pack figures. I absolutely love these figures. For my money, they are some of the best, not just looking, but packaged figures on the market. But some of the older sets are getting very, very hard to find. And spoiler alert, I picked up not 1, but 2 of these sets. The first one is 2 of the most iconic characters from that original 80s cartoon. It is the Splinter and Baxter double pack. And what I love about these is they're just so incredibly detailed. They just look exactly how they did in the cartoon. And with a lot of these NECA double packs now, these are getting harder and harder to find, because with a lot of these they've stopped making them, and it makes some of these figures incredibly hard to pick up. Now, I picked up this one for £57 because, unfortunately as well, yes, these NECA box sets do have a high price tag, but you are paying a premium for these highly detailed, high quality collectibles. But as I said, this is only 1 of 2 of these packs I picked up, and the other one is a very heavy hitter and a very, very rare pack. Here we have it then, the other NECA double pack, which I've been looking for ages. It is the Foot Soldier double pack, and this is an incredibly rare pack. This was one of the first figure sets that NECA released for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toy line, and this one is incredibly, incredibly hard to find. And as soon as I saw this, I found it actually hiding on top of a shelf in the Nerd Base. It was behind other figures. They only had 1 of these box sets, and this one did have quite an eye-watering price tag. This box was £80. But this is the thing. This is an expensive set of figures, and with a set like this, you do not see it very often. And when you see it, you have one choice. You either grab it or you miss out. And I didn't want to miss out. I wanted to add this one to my TMNT collection. And it's a place like Nerd Base. You're going to find things like this. And I just had to bite the bullet, pay the price. But I'm so happy to have this absolutely fantastic double pack in my collection. There we have it then, folks. That was our final live game hunt of 2023, and what an absolutely incredible year it's been, topped off perfectly with heading to Nerd Base. It genuinely is the best store I've been to in 2023, but let me know in the comments down below. 2024 is just on the horizon, and what stores do I need to visit next year on my live game hunts? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game. See y'all soon.